Good morning, guys. Hello. All right, let's see. Oops. All right. So thank you guys for joining us today. For those, I think everyone currently on knows who I am. I'm Diana McAllister, and I work with the Idaho Out of School Network, and I'm the Quality and Professional Development Coordinator. We also have Anna on the line, who's our director. So,
hi.
As you can see. So if you have questions or anything, please feel free to ask them. Today we're talking about building block 1, which is intentional program design. And my thing doesn't want to click.
Hi, Rhonda.
There we go. So quickly, some housekeeping. Hi, Rhonda.
Hi.
This webinar is being recorded and it is available to watch hopefully by tomorrow, possibly next week, but it will be up online for you to watch on our website. If you miss it or you need to step out, you didn't catch it, you want someone else on your staff to watch it, that's where it will live. I have been also posting the slide deck with these trainings, so at any time if you need them to reference, you can go back and print those out for yourselves. If you're having trouble with audio, go ahead and call in on your phone. That's fine. Don't mind. You're welcome to ask questions at any time out loud. If you don't want to, you can use that chat button. It should be on your screen. And I will keep my chat box open. And Anna is also really good at monitoring chat if I'm not. So we'll try to get to you if we can. There will be a poll and a couple of spots throughout this. Literally the poll will pop up and all you do is have to click on it. If you can't click on it, I know some computers, especially like State Department and other, like if you're in school districts that kind of block sites or whatever, and you may not be able to click, but you can use chat. I don't know, I don't make the rules. You're welcome to put any answers in chat or just say them out loud as well. The polls are just kind of a fun way to keep you guys, you know, awake. So today, quickly, we're talking about goals for that. We're going to do a quick overview of the building blocks in case this is the first time you're tuning in, or like I said, this is a recorded webinar, and if anyone clicked these out of order, we would want to start with kind of what the quality standards are and what they're for. We'll talk about what the definition of building block standards are. We'll take a look at the book in case you're following along. We'll kind of go through indicators, not necessarily one by one. There's a lot of indicators in this particular building block, but we'll touch them. And then we'll kind of look at the resources that are currently available in this building block. So here is our first poll. Let me pop it up for you. So I just want to know, you guys should be able to click on that hopefully now. Did you attend the Intro to Building Blocks webinar that we held last November? So it has been a couple of months since we had anything on the building blocks. So we're going to start at the new year with building block 1. I'll give everyone a chance to click in. Got like half of you. Couple more, give you a few more seconds. Does anyone else want to answer? All right. So it looks like it's a good thing that I'm going to cover quickly what the building blocks are, because we've had a handful of people who did not attend the original Intro to Building Blocks. If you'd like to watch that webinar, it is already up on the website in a couple of different places. It's on the building block page, the quality page, and it is also in our ION web workshop page that you can find under professional development. So if you'd like to watch the whole overview of what the building blocks are, that's a good place to start. So we created the quality standards, the building blocks for out of school time quality, basically to start defining what quality looks like in our out of school time programming. We don't have anything, we didn't have anything in the state that defined that for us. And so we had to have a place to start. We would like this to start serving as a foundation of practice for all settings and all programs. We wrote them intentionally to be used by sports programs, by full-time programs, by summer programs. Pretty much anyone who runs an out-of-school time practice can use these. We also want to remind all of you that you're professionals in your field, and this will help support you as a professional. You're not a babysitter. You know, might feel that way, but you're not. You guys are great, and we want you to feel that. And we want to make sure that we're advancing this field and making sure we're lifting up the out of school time. You guys are very important. We know that kids spend 80% of their waking hours outside of the school day. It seems like they're there all day, but they're really not. And you guys play a really big part in that. So the building blocks are built kind of in three parts. The first is the building blocks. So today we're talking about intentional program design. That's the building block. That's the big idea. Then there's a standard, which is basically the definition of that building block. And then we have the indicators, and those are the little things that fall under the building block that show what the ideas are for quality in that building block. And so they go big idea, definition, all of the little indicators are little one-on-one things. So this came out as a guide. So if you're following along in your guide, hopefully my audio quality is fine. So if you're looking in your guide, we're looking at pages 6 and 7 in the printed guide. And this is what those two pages would look like. Anna's holding it up for us so you can see her. It's a great guide. So on the left is all of those indicators, the small things that I was just talking about. And on the right is the self-assessment, which you can give to your staff, you can do yourself. You can give to a parent group, you can give to your investors, whoever you would like. And it's really intended to be a quick and easy way to kind of get a good idea of where you're at in any given standard, in any given building block. We don't assess you, you assess yourself, and you give your own evidence. And it's a pretty easy scoring system. You either think you're doing it fully, you're trying it, or you're just not there yet. And then when you look at these, it'll be a nice way to kind of go, oh, yep, this is the indicator I think we need to start in. And I will say, if you don't know where to start or you're a brand new program, intentional program design is the place you want to start. This is where you kind of lay out where your program is going. And once you kind of get through this kind of a tough indicator, once you get through this, the rest will seem easier because you'll have this to always go back to. So start here. So thank you for everyone who's on. This is where you want to be. If you don't have a copy of our book, that's okay. You can get it online on our website. You go to idahooutofschool.org. There's a quality heading right at the top. Click building blocks, and it's one of the first things you'll see is to print the guide. And so that way you have a copy of the guide too. You can also click on our resource page, and I will show you that later. And every single, right at the top of the resource page is the print the guide as well. So if you click either of the two quality pages, the resource guide is at the top. Good morning, Emily.
Hi.
It is free. and you can download it as many times as you want or need. So let's get into intentional program design. So the standard, I am going to read this standard. Quality programs offer a variety of activities that are active, developmentally appropriate, and culturally sensitive to enrich the physical, social, emotional, and creative development of all participants. The program has identified their desired youth outcomes and has directly connected program activities to those goals. Right? And that bottom part is kind of really important. Not kind of, it is very important. And we're going to talk about goals and mission statements, and then we'll talk about activities and kind of how to connect them. Okay, so for those of you who are my visual learners, here's intentional program design kind of written out. And I took this from, if you use the U for Youth or Y for Y information or website, they have a diagram that's very similar to this, but we feel it's very important to start with your mission goals and your goal objectives before you can get to all the rest of that stuff. So we've added that in. For intentional program design, you kind of start with the end in mind, with your mission and goals and what you want to hope to accomplish or do with children. And then you can build from there. So then you can get into what you need activity designing, and we'll talk on activity design implementation today as well as this one. So we'll cover a few of these. You can find this in our resources if you want to print it out later. So we're gonna do another poll real quick. Oops, where is my poll? No. Hold on guys, sorry.
Yes, 5 is clean and ready.
There you go. So I'm just curious what your current role in your organization is, and you're welcome to click, it is open. Whether you design youth programs, deliver youth programs, you're currently in charge of both delivering and designing your youth program, or neither, you're just here to listen in, and that's totally fine. We welcome everybody. And I'll give you a minute to fill that in. Really, the polls are designed to give me a drink of water. Is anyone else? I'll give you 10 more seconds. All right. Let me show you guys where you are at. So most of you are both delivering and designing programming, which is great. That's a tough job, guys. So I feel for you. Hopefully, as you work through the building blocks, will help you make that a little easier for you. That's kind of our goal. So we'll start with the first two indicators, A and B. And these are what I said, like these are the places you have to start. So your program has clear focused goals that align with your organization's mission, and your program explicitly connects activities to those goals, right? And that's difficult, you guys. I mean, it's not the easiest job. Like I said earlier, you start with the end in mind, kind of have to work backwards. This is long, I'm not going to read all of this, but I wanted to give you an example of kind of a good, well-written mission and goals. So Youth Odyssey is a group out in Texas. They provide at-risk youth programming for 10 to 17. And so their mission is to affect social change in at-risk youth by providing youth development programming that increases their resilient attributes and decreases at-risk factors such as violence and alcohol and pregnancy. And they do that through healthy adventures. And so their goals under their mission Oh, bless you. And I won't read all of these, but they're things like provide use with mentors. They want to help at-risk youth become successful in building social and behavioral skills. Include leadership, self-confidence, communication, and problem solving. So you can see, like, when you start to have goals connected to your mission, program goals connected to your mission, you can kind of see where activities can start falling. So mission statements, I always, Dilbert, for those of us who are of a certain age, says, Wally, your status report is just a bunch of buzzwords strung together. I've been giving you the same status report every week for 11 years. 5 years ago, you adopted it as your mission statement. Right? We don't want that. Right. So mission statements should be an expression of your organization and your desire and intent as an organization. So the sole purpose of a mission statement is to communicate to employees, to your customers, to your stakeholders, what your organization's drive and direction is. What are you here to do? Right? Should create a sense of identity, and you have to know it. You need to know your organization's mission. And if you don't know it, find it. If your organization doesn't have one, create one. Because it's really the intent. You can't really continue to do programming. Well, you can continue to do programming, quality programming, without having an identity and a drive. Then you create goals that match your organization's mission. Sounds so easy, right? There's people who, like, their entire lives is mission statement building, and there's a lot of us who are like, not my entire life. It's very hard. We'll do one more poll while we're here. Why not? So I'm just asking, do you know your organization's mission? Yes, by heart. Mostly have the gist. You can give the buzzwords, kind of like Wally. You don't know it, or you don't think your organization has one, or you're not sure, and that's fine too. We'll give you a minute to fill that in. I'll give you about 10 more seconds for those of you that are trickling in or trying to think about what the mission is in your head. All right, I'm gonna end your guys' polling. So I'm happy that the majority of you fall into mostly have the gist, and some of you even fall into yes by heart. And only one is organization doesn't currently have a mission. And we'll walk through missions a little bit more, and then we'll talk about goals. And if you guys need help creating a mission, certainly let us know, and we'll provide that TA for you. And those of you who are falling into give the buzzwords, maybe post your mission somewhere so you can get it ingrained. Make sure it's in your handbooks and all that good stuff, and that your employees are hearing it as well. And then hopefully you'll get to mostly, I have the gist. Oh, I'm not talking about mission anymore. We're going to talk about goals. And then hopefully, I know, so most of you probably have an organizational mission that you didn't write, and that's okay. But hopefully as a program, you can write goals that are specific to your program, even if your organization has goals. We're talking about your program goals, what you want to see in your program while you work with children. And that's kind of where we're going to start this. So this is your why, right? This is your why. This is the big why you do what you do. So program goals are relating to your program and not projects and activities. And that's kind of a switch probably for a couple of you. And here's an example of that. If your program participates in building bikes, right? That's an activity that you guys do or a project that you work on. Your program goal, as it ties to your mission, is not that you build X number of bikes, right? That's not a why. So what you want to do is why your program is having children build bikes, right? What are the skills they're gaining and how do they tie to your goal or your mission? So bike building could be that you allow youth to be successful in building social and behavior skills, right? That's your goal. Your goal is that youth participate in activities that produce a sense of usefulness and responsibility, right? So those are program goals. The bike building is just an activity that is meeting those goals. Is that making sense? Does anyone have questions here? The difference between an activity goal and a program goal? You can always chime in later if you think of one. So you've written your program goals, right? Then you kind of want to write objectives, and the objectives are how your program reaches your goals, right? We're still not writing activity goals. We'll get to that. We're still at program goals, right? So mission, program goals, program objectives. So this is where you can measure success or not, right? And so I took an example from one of the summer tribal youth programs. So they have a program goal. This is one goal that relates to their mission, that introduce youth to exciting career opportunities such as forestry, wildlife, park, and fish management. And so then their objectives under this goal is that youth work with different agencies, youth are educated on various resources, and youth gain valuable work experience. So now hopefully what you're seeing is ways, now the activities kind of jump off the page, right? Because now you can go, oh, well, I need to have them meet different resources and field people. We can take field trips to all of these different places. We can have professionals come in. We can talk to these guys. We can study fish and game, right? So now your activities start filling in that you know tie to your goals and objectives. Right? And it's okay to have activities that do not tie to your goals and objectives. You just want to make sure you're not steering your ship in a different direction. This is the heavy work, right? The activity indicators. I'm not going to read all of these for you, but you can find them. We'll kind of go over them quickly. You want activities that build on each other so that they keep gaining skills and knowledge. Engaging different learning styles. This is a hard one, but if you think about your activity as you build it, you should be able to hit people who are auditory learners, visual learners, people who learn interpersonally or not. That way everyone gets to participate. And learning techniques goes with learning styles. So what is project-based, hands-on, needs to relate to life. If you hit them in different ways, they'll learn in different ways. Kind of have to be flexible. I think everyone who works in out of school time already is. But we want people to gain different skills and have different needs met. You know, activities are appropriate, the schedule flow and duration. You know, you don't want a 3-hour activity if you're working with 6-year-olds, right? But maybe if you have, 15, 16-year-olds, that is an appropriate time length. So just, being aware and balancing your structured and unstructured time, right? We want to make sure they're developing a variety of communication skills and exploring and expressing ideas. And then you want activities that are designed to encourage youth to value and celebrate them and their friends and peers' improvement and efforts. So just kind of building in that feedback system, not just a feedback on the activity, but on a feedback on each other, so that they learn how to build each other up and build themselves up. Because that's really hard. If you've taken my brain training, that's that's a hard thing for them, but they also really like reward. So the more you can provide that for them, the more they want to try and do new things. Creating inclusive programs seems hard on the surface. but you really have to try. Not even try, you just have to do it. Promoting inclusion means treating youth with disabilities and learning styles as similarly to those without as possible. I will add, while respecting their individuality and their needs. You know, if you're welcoming and you're supportive, you're gonna be halfway there already. Most of the time, and I will say most of the time, inclusion doesn't require a big program structure change, right? It's just being more intentional. Thanks, Jane. Jane says this is the most exciting part of the job. And I appreciate that greatly. I will be honest, I have a son with autism, and 99% of the time, he can be included with no extra change other than just being respectful that he may need a break or kind of tiny minor things. So just keep that in mind. The pictures at the bottom kind of illustrate really easy changes like kids on wiggle chairs, kids on a bouncy ball, or a yoga ball, stand-up easel that he can drive up to. Those are not huge program structure changes. That it's really just being intentional. And when you design an activity or you're going to do an activity in your program, and we'll kind of touch on that hopefully towards the end, it's just kind of thinking through the kids that you have and are there any tweaks you need to make to your activity to make sure everyone's included. And when I say included, I mean included in the actual activity. This is an extreme example, but I had a student that I was judging on an activity, and they were doing a dance activity. And I said, well, if you had a student in a wheelchair, how would they participate in this activity? And they said, well, they could be in charge of turning the music on and off. And that's not participating in their activity, right? That's, yeah, they're with you. Yes, Jane, that happened. And unfortunately that happens a lot. And there's just kind of an assumption that they just can't participate in a dance activity. And that isn't true. And so what I would rather hear is you work with parents and teachers, you know, their school day teachers and parents, and see what's possible and what accommodations may or may not need to be for them. They might have an HI or they might have a para that can come with them. They can dance with scarves, they can move their arms, they can be wheeled. It depends on the person, right? So work with parents whenever possible and teachers. If you're in a school and people think it's impossible to get IEPs, it's not. And I have an example of an IEP release in the resource guide, and it can be shared, and you just need parental permission. Actually, any record can be shared as long as there's consenting parties. But really that takes you talking with parents and teachers, and if you need that information. Okay, just be intentional. So how do you build activities that meet all of these standards? Look, start with an idea. What do you want to do? You don't have to have a full plan. Don't get stuck in, I can't do this, I don't have the whole thing planned. Just get started. Find that idea. What do you want to do? And then remember, start with your program goal. What do you want to do with your program? What do you want kids to do? How do you build an idea into that? It has to mean something for you guys in your program. Like follow things that jump out. If there's something cool that you want to do, go down that line and see where you can fit it in. But with a caveat that don't do things out of something that you're equipped to do. If you're not equipped to do it now and you want to do it, how do you become equipped to do it? But don't set yourself up for failure in the moment. Kind of long game, right? Did the students have a say in the activity? Have they even expressed an interest in the project or in the topic? And Jane, that kind of goes back to not necessarily always having a youth group. It's great and hopefully you get there, but as you're listening to them or what they're working on in school, what are things that they're interested in that you can get them interested in, and how do they work into your goals? You know, Ask them if you can and they're willing. Ask them, what do they want to do? What do they like? What are they working on in school? Does your activity offer a way for students to make decisions and choices? And can they take personal or group responsibility for their participation, right? And that will tie into your youth voice and leadership later down the road.
Do you want to spill our donuts? We usually do.
Then you kind of pulled it together, right? This is where it gets, how much time, and really think through how much time does your activity need? Who's setting it up? Are you setting it up? Are they setting it up? You have to get the kids together. Then you have to have time to give full directions. You might even have to have time for them to look at materials, touch all the materials before you even get started, especially if you're introducing something new. Then have your activity, build in time for that follow-up, reflection, accolades. Yay, you all did a great job. You want that built into your time, and then obviously cleanup. Does your staff have knowledge or experience with these materials? Because they may need time, especially if it's a new activity, to look everything through. You might have to do a training before you can present it to kids.
Mommy.
Do you need technology, media, or other equipment materials that you need? Can you make substitutions if you don't have those materials? Can you rent? Can you borrow? This all sounds hard, but once these things are thought through and done, and you have a great activity written out, you'll be ahead of the game, right? If you have activities that you do all the time, sometimes it's nice to just write all this out, make sure you're covering all your bases, so that you can check the quality of what you're doing, right? Did your program already do this activity or have similar activities? The kids already know all the materials that you're looking at. How much space do you need? What kind of space do you need? Is there enough room for all of the kids who want to participate, right? Okay, Jane says she has a problem doing planning boards, but we can work through those. Are there distractions that can deter your kids from fully participating? Don't set kids up to fail. If you're doing an activity that requires some form of kind of concentration, STEM, literacy things, and you have them all in the gym while other kids are playing basketball, your behavior is going to go up immediately. They're going to be distracted automatically. So can you set that activity in a classroom, a library, outside, in the hallway, somewhere where they're not watching kids play basketball at the same time? Right? Are the materials appropriate for the age group you're working with and the kids that you have? So thinking through all the kids, because if you have kids that are 6 to 16, those materials may not be suitable for everybody. Or if they are, how are you working between the two age groups? Are they appealing? Are they fun? Do you think the kids will like them? You kind of think about both things at the same time. Do you need any accommodations? Have you considered the different learning styles and skill levels? Can all the kids that you want participating manipulate whatever the object is? Can they work the technology that you're using? Kids should be hands-on and minds-on as much as possible, right? So, and a lot of times you'll get one or the other, and it's nice to try and think about both. So an example would be like a craft project. If you put out the materials and hand them the example and say, we're building this exact thing and I need you to build this, they're going to be hands-on, but they're not going to be minds-on. And if you could switch that same activity to, hey, we're building birdhouses or mailbox, here's the materials we have, how do you think we can design these? Now you've changed that to a hands-on and minds-on activity, right? How is this activity relevant? Does it connect to their lives, to their family, their school, their home, their church, their community, broader context of the world? We're building birdhouses. Why do you think we need birdhouses? What's happening in our environment? What's happening in our neighborhood? Is it becoming winter? Where do kids, nest? Now you've gone down the line of connecting it somewhere, and they're hands-on and their minds-on. Your materials are appropriate and appealing for multiple age groups, right? So, And then hopefully you're connecting that to a goal. We want kids to learn about sustainable housing. We want kids to learn, right? You're connecting it to something that you're working on. Jody, can you, I think Jody is not muted. I will just mute her. There we go. Done. Oh, there you go. Are you working towards your program goals and missions? Always come back to that at the end. So things to think about when you're building an activity. I just gave you a bunch of things to think about. We're gonna think some more. So special needs. Is anyone in your program requiring special accommodations? Even if you are not sure, you have not been told about a diagnosis, but you know in your back of your head that you're going to have a kid that needs special accommodations, think about that as soon as you're thinking about the activity. And I like this one. This is a behavior one that those of you who have taken Emily's behavior training or maybe have heard me talk about behavior, kids will need breaks. And if you give them permission in how to do it, then you're going to mitigate behavior immediately, right? So how do kids take a step back from your activity if and when they need it? Do they have a place to go? Do they have a way to check out and then check back in? Or is it a project that you're like, if you check out, this is what will happen. You'll need to complete this later if you want to continue, or you'll get it sent home, but give that permission for kids. Sometimes they've gone to school all day, or they have other things happening in their life, or they're tired and they just need to check out. And instead of saying, no, you must sit here the whole time, give them an exit strategy so that you're not watching those behaviors increase. What happens if kids finish early or they're taking too long? Again, that's a behavior modification skill that subtopic from, I said buzzword because it's like, oh, vision and mission. Sorry, so Dalila's asking about, I'm looking at the program handbook, and where does vision go? It sounds like a subtopic for mission. It often is, and some people use them sort of interchangeably, mission and vision statements. But usually it is under, if you have a mission, you'll have a vision statement, and then your program goals would go under that. Just thank you for asking. And we can talk about that or in our visit as well if you want. So anyway, going back, so what happens when kids finish or take longer? So just think that through. Have that extra activity for those that finish fast, or have a place for them to go. And then if those are taking longer and they can save them till the next day, or do they need to take something home with them? Think it through ahead of time, put that on your lesson plan so that everyone knows what happens when someone finishes early or is taking too long. And that way you're not stuck with 10 kids who have now finished early and are just wandering around or making noise or whatever it is. How many ways are there to do the same activity, right? Because this is, you want something that a bunch of different learner styles can do. So does your project have a hands-on activity that needs printed instructions, as well as verbal instructions, as well as a demonstration? Right? Sometimes we get into like, well, I gave you the instructions, why have you not done it? And you have a visual learner who's like, I have no idea what you said. I'm on step 1, and now you've raised frustration level. So if you can kind of walk through, all right, I printed the instructions, I'm gonna tell them the instructions, and then I'm gonna show them the instructions. And can a kid do this activity standing? Can he do it sitting? Can he do it under the table? Because I don't mind if he's under the table, that's fine. Sensory-wise, he might like it under the table. And that's all okay. Unless there's a safety issue, don't. Let me go there, but just kind of think through all the ways in an activity that you're making sure everyone has access. What if there's weather? Circumstances changed. You planned this really great activity, but you didn't realize that the school planned something else in your same space, and now you have to move. Can your activity be done somewhere else? And if not, do you have a backup that you can do? Keep that in your back pocket always, right? Is there a way for students to follow up or give feedback on your activity? I suggest as much as possible just building it in to your activity. Build in time at the end to check in. Did you guys like it? Do you want to do this again? We're going to do the follow-up activity for this next week. What do you want to see? What can we change? You guys did awesome today. I like, be specific, they're teens. I really liked how you worked hard, this group over here worked together. You were really listening to each other. That should go throughout the activity, but definitely build in time at the end whenever possible to make sure kids are checking in with you. So we're going to head over to the resource guide. If you haven't looked at the resource guide, hop on our website. You can find it at idahoouofschool.org. You can write in building block resources, or you can just go to the website, and at the quality tab at the top is a spot that says resources. You can find guides, handbooks, trainings, worksheets, all broken down by building block. We're working on adding Y4Y resources. I've built in some into intentional program design as we go throughout the year, we'll build in more. So if you're already using those resources, you'll now find them broken down by the building block you're working on. And someone emailed me or asked a question about building shared resources. I would love a way that if you guys have a really great lesson plan or you have a really great handbook and you want to share it, to build a way to do that for you guys. I think that's a fantastic idea. Right now, you can just email me, but in the future, there will probably be a space to submit resources that you want to see in the guide. And I just need to create a form and a way for you guys to do that. But if you have anything, if you've thought about something as we've talked, or you're further down in the book and you want to see it included before I get to that training, please let me know. Please, I am happy. If you're looking for something, I know Jane's emailed sometimes, if you're looking for something, you're like, I need a lesson plan format, or I need, and you don't see it in the resource guide, also let me know. I have lots of tricks up my sleeve. That's kind of our job. And we'll find it. We'll figure out if we can find it. And if we can't find it, we'll build it. So let's hop over to the resource page real quick. Maybe. All right, here's our resource guide. You won't, this is for me, I'm sorry, I don't know why it opened that way, but anyhow, this is the landing page. Like I said, here's the quality, and if you want building blocks, we'll go ahead and click on that real quick for you guys who are new. I don't know what's taking so long. And so here's see the guide. Right? You can print it right here. If you've missed that intro and you want to watch it, it's about an hour-long talk with me talking some more. Right here, an introduction to building blocks are right there. And you can find all this information under quality and building blocks. You can get to the resource guide from this page, or of course you can get to it from here. And here at the top, again, is that printing. You can print that quality guide out if you would like one. Couple of things, these two things and your continuous quality improvement templates are on every building block. Those will be the exact same no matter where you click. This was kind of requested, and it's something that we built for you guys. Well, this is just if you want to print just the intentional program design and not the entire guide. So at the top of each building block, you'll find just that building block summary and a fillable summary, which will give you, and I should probably make that more obvious. I'm going to rename these just for you guys. This is a fillable form that you can download, and this is just the self-assessment with no filling in, kind of that quick visual that you can hand to people that'll really show you areas of need or areas you're doing really great in pretty quickly. So those are nice. If you are looking for a quality improvement plan, say you decided that intentional program is where you want to start working, you can print this out, kind of give yourself what area you're working in, and give yourself times and dates and who's working on it, and then what else you want to do. This is kind of step one in that quality improvement plan. There's more instructions on the quality improvement plan in the guide. There's also a PD plan for those of you who are working with staff or yourself and you want to write down what their long-term goals are and their short-term goals are. There's also a PD plan in here. But for those intentional program design, here's that diagram that we saw at the beginning if you want it and you need to print it out. Here's an IEP release example. If you have kids that you know have IEPs that you would like to know about and you think the parents would be willing, the schools that you work with probably already have a release. If they don't for some reason, here's a good example. This can also work for a lot of agencies if you are looking for social work or speech language records from their PT or OT. And the parents can say, yes, I would like those released to you. Here's a good example of that. There's some sample program schedules, mapping needs to activities. This is kind of an interesting activity that you can do. Oh, I thought I downloaded the actual, sorry, this is a website. And so is it a school level need, student need, and then you can look at your activities and what your needs are and use that. There are a couple of good trainings that are currently offered. Dang it. Learning environments curriculum, overview of project-based learning, and project-based learning implementation strategies. These are nice little kind of webinars or trainings that you can take. There's project planners, a super basic lesson plan template. If you have not made a lesson plan before, this will allow you a space to put in your building block that you're working on, your lesson objective, any materials you need, reminds you to look at accommodations and assessments. Real basic. If you're working on project-based learning and through Y4Y, there's basically rubrics that you can fill out to make sure that your lesson is going the way you want. And we also have just some websites that are kind of fun. The National Center for Quality Out of School Time Programming has a place, if it will open, with lesson plans pretty much already built in, which is kind of a nice place to start. I will let that load, see what happens. And this is the After School Life website, and she has kind of a great way to like build themes and purposeful planning, and she also has some templates on hers. Oh, so here we go. Quality After School, and if you go into their lesson plans, they'll tell you what grades, and then they'll give you a lesson. And what's really nice is they give you learning goals, materials. They really kind of break down a lot of it. The only thing I would add to their lesson plans that we just talked about is accommodations that you would need. They don't address accommodations for different learners or styles. And so just make sure that if you're using their lesson plans that you still think through those accommodations. All right, so we still, that's kind of the end that I have, but I did build in a few minutes here at the end to kind of hear you guys on what maybe you're struggling with, if you have any questions, if there's resources that you would like or didn't see in those lists that you need me to find or get for you. Now's the time to ask, and you're welcome to put it in chat, or I will stay on the line for the next 10 minutes. You can get me, if you want to email me, at dmcallister@janus.org. If you forget that, you can go to our website, idahooutofschool.org, and my information's there. You can also email Anna at any time. But please, please start with intentional program design. If you get your goals for your program written, your activities will fall in line. And then hopefully you're hearing your students and you're building in those accommodations and multiple ways to learn. That's what I ask from you guys. Anyway, I will stay on the line for a few more minutes, and if you want, this was a kind of a dense topic, so if you want out, I understand. And I will see you guys next, so next month in February, we will be doing the Building Block 2. Also next week, if you have not taken brain science and you would like to take it, I'm doing adolescent brain science next Thursday, same bat time, same bat channel, at 10, and you can register for that online as well. And we will see you guys then. Otherwise, I will stay on the line if anyone has questions or concerns or wants to talk. Oh, good. I'm glad, Teresa, we gave you something to work on. Start here. Otherwise, like, start at number 1. Thank you, Sheena.
I do have a question. Thank you, Diana. It's really great.
So, Jan, let's
Diana,
see.
in our glossary for
What?
the Idaho building blocks, in our glossary
Yeah.
for Idaho building blocks,
Yeah.
it has the culture period or defined. And I was wondering if you've seen anything across the resources that you've been viewing. This defines culture as a set of beliefs, values, and norms that are shared among community. Is there anything ever highlighting, including that language piece?
Oh, including language as part of being culturally sensitive? Is that what you're?
Yes, yes.
I don't know if we, sorry, I'm trying to find.
Just because what I see, there's 2 systems to address being cultural sensitive, is you do provide and acknowledge beliefs and values and do celebrations of those cultures and everything, but there is also research out there evaluating the language and encouraging it, providing opportunity to enrich in it. And so just wondering if that is something that you see or run into within resource.
I don't know. So I was trying to look. So currently we don't, I wish I had more, and this is an area that I do need to find more resources in. Right now we're working on culture and identity being a respect and as adaptive in your programming as possible, and making sure you're responsive to the diverse needs. And if that includes language, then it would include language. If that's a block, you know, a stumbling block for your program, or I was just trying to see.
Just because obviously personally I'm an advocate for that, and
Yeah.
I've noticed every direction that I go, I am seeing people are touching on culture, but they're actually turning it and twisting it to the aspect where they are checking it off that they're doing it, but they're really not doing the enrichment piece. You know, we do. You mean you can connect the dot with it's a 21st century skill. You want to be marketable. You do want to have another language. It does create culture sensitivity to others as you learn and you're building, you know, that additional language, or, you know, when there's more than one language involved.
So
I'm just seeing that
we don't.
Maybe that's something we need to add on.
Yeah. So we took it on, and as you probably read, you know, that they have intentional opportunities that they can be themselves, whether that's speaking in their own language or whatever their identity identifies as, that you're in a safe space in your program, and that you understand at least youth culture, interest, their needs, their abilities. We didn't build in really specific requirements at this juncture that says like you have to speak in their language, or because we're at such a ground floor of quality needs, and this is our first writing of this. Certainly as this expands and over time, I can totally see including more specificity in these building blocks. Right now, we're kind of at the point we want people to be thinking about it, be respectful of it, be inclusive as possible, but we have not added anything, and we didn't define culture or identity in any form, especially in our state, that would make someone not want to use this book, if that makes sense. as much as that's frustrating.
Yeah.
hmm But
So
we can
perfect.
certainly
We'll
talk
just have
more about
to-
this. What? I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes, we can. Yes.
Yes, definitely. Especially if this is an area that we want to self-identify later as something that you want to work on.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So we will see each other later today.
Yes. Yes. Did we get a time? Sorry, I came in and did this immediately. When do you want us there?
Yes. 5:40.
Perfect. We will be there.
Okay, perfect. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Delia.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I see Susan, Katie, and James still on. Does anyone have questions, or and Sheena still on?
No, great job. Just listening in.
Oh, okay. Jane, I know you had a question and I just closed it. We went again about sports. Oh, okay. Thanks, Jane. I will talk to you later. Perfect. Does anyone else want to ask anything about any of the building blocks or have questions while I'm still on? Oh, I see people checking out. So I'm going to go. You're welcome to email or call at any time. And thank you so much for checking in with us.